Ever look at a depth chart and just think, man, how do you even break into this thing? That was exactly my reaction going through the Chargers post-draft lineup this week. That's why today's episode is taking a bit of a different direction. We're not spotlighting the big names or the splashy headlines. This is about the sleepers, the value plays, the overlooked guys who could sneak in come training camp or right before the season starts and actually make a difference. Because while the elite talent at the top might not blow you away, this is easily one of the most well-built rosters the Chargers have put together in years. And that makes finding those last few puzzle pieces a lot trickier than you'd think. What's up, buddies? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're breaking down everything happening in the AFC West. So, what are we doing here? We're searching for the next Tier Tart, the next Elijah Molden. Those underrated, underpriced players who might have fallen out of favor somewhere else or who just haven't had their breakout yet, but could thrive in LA under Jim Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz. And if you zoom out and look at how they've built this roster, there's definitely a plan. This front office is volume shooting. They've drafted more players in the last 2 years than Tom Telesco did in his first 3. That's mostly thanks to a flood of compensatory picks. But what it's created is a roster where most position rooms already have developmental talent baked in. That's a dream for fans. But it makes speculative roster-building content a little more complicated. Still, there are a few names floating around that are worth a serious look. Let's start with the biggest one, Von Miller. Now, I get the buzz. When a future Hall of Famer hits the market, your first thought is, why not? Even at 35, Von Miller can still get to the quarterback. Last year, he posted a 24% win rate on true pass sets. That's not washed-up territory. That's still real production. But let's be honest. At this point in his career, he's a very specific piece. He's a situational pass rusher. He's not setting the edge. He's not playing all 3 downs. And if you're a team that needs rotational run stopping, like the Chargers, he doesn't exactly fit the bill. Then there's the Tuli Tuipulotu situation. I don't want anything cutting into his reps. Not just because he showed flashes as a rookie, but because this season is all about figuring out whether he's the long-term answer opposite whoever the team decides to invest in come 2026. Sure, Von Miller is a better pure rusher than Bud Dupree, that's clear. Last season, Dupree had a pass rush win rate of just 7.8%. That's nearly 3 times lower than Miller. But Dupree was brought in for a very defined job. Hold the edge, stop the run, apply a little pressure, and do the grunt work behind Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. If you cut him and slot in Miller as your backup, you're asking for problems in the run game. And this team can't afford that vulnerability. That's why I think the better play is to focus on younger under-the-radar players or potential camp cuts who fit this current build. Guys with upside, affordability, and versatility, whether that's on special teams or providing depth inside. One name I immediately thought of was Neal from the Giants. Yeah, I know, top 10 pick, hasn't lived up to the hype, but that's exactly the kind of player a team like the Chargers should be eyeing, especially when Trey Pipkins is on a contract year and Jamari Salyer is still in flux positionally. Neal is massive, 6 feet 7 inches, 340 pounds. And this staff clearly loves size. He played multiple roles at Alabama, and while his pass protection has been rough in the pros, he graded over 80 in run blocking last season on limited snaps. If he hits the waiver wire, I'd absolutely consider a day 3 pick swap. You're not banking on him in 2025. You're stashing him, developing him, and seeing if he can become a future swing tackle. Another name that fits the current mold, especially after the Von Miller discussion, is Isaiah Foskey from the Saints. He's not going to be a star, and that's fine. What he does offer is value on special teams. Last year, he logged 354 snaps there, 6th most among edge rushers league-wide. He's dependable against the run, and if the Chargers want Tuli focused strictly on defense, Foskey can handle the 3rd and 4th team duties on special teams while Justin Conklin leans into a pass rush-focused role. Plus, there's the J. Harbaugh connection from Foskey's Notre Dame recruitment days. And let's be real, that stuff matters now more than ever. Now, let's flip the script to the offense. Wide receiver room. Everyone's buzzing about Ladd McConkey and the incoming rookies, but one area that still looks thin is the backup slot spot behind McConkey. Enter John Metchie III. People forget how highly Metchie was drafted. Top 50 pick. Incredible separation skills, strong hands, and he was just starting to find his rhythm in Houston before leukemia and injuries set him back. The Texans went out and added a whole new receiver corps this offseason, so it's realistic he becomes a cut candidate. If that happens, I'd take that swing. He's not there to challenge Ladd, but if you want a true backup slot who can run the full route tree, he's miles ahead of Luke Grimm or Darius Davis in that spot. And if he doesn't make the 53-man roster, stash him on the practice squad. No harm, no foul. Let's go back to the trenches for a second. Will Hernandez is still on the market, and I honestly don't get why. Maybe he's banged up, but when isn't he? The guy is a solid, proven guard with experience at both left and right. And if the Chargers are at all serious about playing Zion Johnson at center, which seems more and more likely after OTA buzz, they absolutely need another veteran guard. You can't roll into the season with Brendan Hymes or a 7th rounder as your next man up. Hernandez would push Salyer for the starting left guard job on day 1 and give the line much-needed flexibility. And at this stage in the offseason, he'd likely sign for cheap, maybe in the $1.5 to $2 million range on a 1-year deal. Now, let's talk defensive tackle. That group still feels one guy short, and Justin Jones makes a ton of sense. He's a former Charger who put up back-to-back 30-plus pressure seasons in Chicago. He was hurt last year in Arizona, but if he's healthy, that's someone who can actually provide interior pass rush, something this team is sorely lacking behind Tart, Caldwell, and Otito Ogbonnia. The current DT group might get you 15 to 20 pressures apiece. Justin Jones could get you 30, and he already knows the building. If he gets released, that's a no-brainer pickup. Last one. Let's talk about Ricky Stromberg, the former Arkansas center who was drafted by Washington, then bounced to the Bears before fading out after a knee injury. Now, I'm not saying plug him into the starting lineup, but if the team's planning to slide Zion over to center and is still sorting out Andre James, then you absolutely need a young developmental option. Stromberg checked all the boxes pre-draft. High RAS score, good anchor, excellent mobility. If he gets cut, bring him in on a futures deal or stash him on the practice squad. It's not like Josh Kaltenberger has locked down that center 3 role, so what do all these players have in common? They're not flashy, they're not going to dominate headlines, but they make this team stronger where it matters, on the margins. If Jim Harbaugh wants this roster to be tough, deep, and physical, like the blueprint he used at Michigan, then the last 5 to 10 guys on the roster matter just as much as the top 5. It's these little depth decisions that win games in December. It's the smart signings that carry you when starters go down. And let's be honest, the Chargers need to win a playoff game this year. No more excuses. Doesn't matter how healthy or unhealthy they are. The bar is to finally win in January. And upgrading around the edges, that's how you give yourself the best shot. Now, a few folks out there are saying the Chiefs might take a step back because of their brutal schedule. Let's not fall for that. The Chiefs always have a brutal schedule. It hasn't stopped them from going back to back. The Chargers aren't getting any breaks either. Eagles, Lions, Ravens, Cowboys, Bills, and the Chiefs twice. This isn't a soft landing. So, if you're gearing up for that kind of fight, you better finish off this roster like it's ready to take punches and throw some back. So, whether it ends up being Von Miller, Evan Neal, John Metchie, or a total surprise name after cuts, stay sharp. This front office plays the long game, and they've shown they'll wait for the right move. But if they want to turn 2025 into something real, now's the moment to tighten the edges and go make some quiet noise.